Hi everyone, this is Jacob Stamball with Texas Engineering and World Health, and today I will be helping you get started with GitLab. GitLab is a software development tool that allows multiple users and devices to work on code continuously at the same time. GitLab is similar to GitHub, but it does have a continuous integration feature that it has built into it, which we'll cover in a little bit. Now a little overview of what GitLab is and how it works. In general, GitLab has a centralized pipeline where users can pull and add code to continuously, while the continuous integration handles collisions of multiple pulls and adding code at the same time. In general, there is a cloud server that holds a repository where the centralized code is located. From there, users can check out the code onto their local device using a command called git pull or git clone, and then work on the code and add features and debug bugs however much they like. At this point, they have to commit the code back onto the centralized pipeline using a feature called git push. At this point, if another user has made changes to the code and the centralized pipeline has been updated, they must do a git pull to retrieve the code and check what changes have been made and make sure that their code that they're adding doesn't interfere with those changes. So it is a little bit of a back and forth pull between your local device and the GitLab cloud. And this allows for multiple users to be working on the code at one time. Now a little bit about how GitLab works on your local machine. First off, you must clone the repository from the cloud onto your local machine using a command called git clone. From now on, the repository will be on your computer under something called a working directory. Similar to the cloud, your computer also has a localized pipeline that only you can add and pull changes from. So if you want to implement a change or debug some bugs, the first step to do that is to obviously code. But then after that, if you want to move forward to start pushing it back onto the cloud, the first step is to do something called git add. Git add takes your changes and moves them to a staging area. This staging area is mostly for code that you're not quite too sure if you really want to change it. So if you wish to go back, you can just do the git add again and it'll update the files automatically. Once you're ready to move forward, you can do a git commit. Git commit is only really used when you're sure the code works and you're ready to start moving it onto the centralized pipeline. It is possible, however, to undo a commit, but it is very difficult and not recommended. Once the code is onto the centralized pipeline on your computer, the next step is to push it back onto the cloud using a command called git push. This will automatically update the cloud pipeline with the code that you added. It is typically recommended, though, before this step to do something called a git pull. Git pull kind of refreshes your code with the code on the pipeline, because there is a chance that someone else working on the cloud pipeline has already added code before you. This is where the continuous integration comes into play. The git pull will automatically check for differences in the code and allow you, the user, to check out these differences as well and see if they interfere with your code. If you think you're ready to go, you can still do the git push after this step. Now a little bit more about how continuous integration works in GitLab. So as I was saying before, there's a strong chance that people are adding code very quickly, and the centralized pipeline can be kind of convoluted with different codes. So continuous integration, to prevent a lot of issues, you have to write a lot of test cases for your code to make sure when you add something or you implement some kind of change or you debug a bug, the code still runs properly. So this is called unit tests. And unit tests are essential for continuous integration. So continuous integration in a nutshell is just multiple people coming together to code in small chunks and frequently add those chunks onto the centralized pipeline. And then, well, before that step, to check if the code they coded worked, and then add it to the centralized pipeline. And then this process just repeats over and over again until a whole program is written. Working like this allows for less bugs. It is less time consuming and more efficient for coding as you're continuously writing small chunks of code. Now I will begin to show you how to install GitLab and get started with it. So now that we've talked a little bit about what GitLab is, I'm going to help you start configuring the settings of GitLab and making sure you have all the necessary installed software. So first things first, also if you want to pause the video at any time to make sure you have the stuff installed / wait for the installation, because I know some of these things can take a while sometimes, feel free to press pause on the video. So first things first is you want to open command prompt just to make sure you have Python running on your system. So you want to type in Python space -- version, and this will either tell you the current Python version you're running, which indicates that you have Python on your computer, or it'll give you an error message that Python doesn't exist and therefore can't give you a version of Python. So if you don't have Python, go ahead and install it right now. Just run the normal installation by searching up Python on Google and just automatically install it on your computer. Don't worry about the location too much. It'll typically install it in all the locations where everyone's is. So I say that because if you already have Python installed, you want to go to, just to make sure that Python is in your path variable, which allows Python to be run from various parts of your computer. So to do that, you open Control Panel, you go to System and Security, System, and then you go to Advanced System Settings, Environment Variables, and then under System Variables right here on the second window, just gonna close some of this stuff up. On System Variables, you're gonna go to a variable called Path. And then from here, you're gonna hit Edit. And then you're gonna wanna add the location where your Python library and scripts are. So for me, this is what it looks like and where they're located. To find this, because it can be a little bit difficult, you just wanna open, let me close these. You just wanna go ahead and open the file explorer. And typically it'll be installed under your local C drive, under users, your user. And then from here, sometimes you can find it and sometimes you can't. The next step is to go to app data. For whatever reason, it doesn't show on my computer, so I have to manually type in / app data. And then from here, you're gonna go to local, scroll down till you find programs, and then you should find your Python file. This is my most recent version of Python. This was an older version that I have, so I'm gonna go with this one. And then I'm going to go, here are the two folders that I want to add, lib and scripts. So I simply click on lib. This is the path. I would Control C, and then I would click new and then paste it onto here. You don't have to move it all the way up. I just moved it all the way up to show which 5 you should have when you're done with this process. So for now, we've only added these two, the library and the scripts. And you should actually, now that you have GitLab installed, you should add git bin, which can be, for me, it was a little bit different. I don't have space on my C drive, so I installed Git on my D drive. So for here, I created a folder, and then you just want to add this path to this bin right here onto the path variables. So that covers these 3. And so we're just going to keep this open. Actually, we'll just close it for now. There's another 2 we have to add, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So after you check if you have Python, the next thing you want to do is create a GitLab account. So if you just search up GitLab, you should be able to create an account. You just need an email. It is completely free. There is an upgraded gold version. I'm not sure what the gold version gives you that you would need. I think it has a lot of space to begin with. And if you need more space for whatever reason, just delete your old stuff. There's no way you should be able to go over the limit, if there is a limit. But after that, you're going to want to install Git, which is the interface between your computer and GitLab. So if you just type in Git, it should come up. And then once again, you want to install it. Just do the normal installation, allow it to configure its own settings, and make sure you install Git bash, which should come with it under a little checkbox. And then once you're done with that, you're going to want to open Git bash, which should look like this. To open it, you can, if it didn't install the icon on your desktop, just type in git and then open git bash. And so now we're going to want to configure a few settings on git bash. So you're going to do git config -- global, then user.name, and then in quotations, you're going to add your name. For me, this would just be Jacob. And then you hit enter. Nothing should happen unless you did it wrong. And so then we're gonna, if you hit the up key, you can go to previous things you ran. So to make this simpler, I'm just gonna go up, and then this time it's gonna be git configure -- global user.email. And so it's really important that you use the email that you signed up GitLab with. It's just how it works. And so then again, actually you don't need quotations, you just type in your email this time around. So for me, it would just be this. And then you hit enter. I'm not gonna hit enter because I don't wanna mess with a lot of my settings again. And so then after this, what you wanna do is same thing, git configure -- global. And then this time we're just gonna change a few of the other settings to help out with user interface. So we're gonna do push.default simple. This just allows, this should be a period, not a comma. This just allows for a simpler user interface when pushing onto the cloud. And so then after this, you will also wanna do global, git configure global color .ui true. Again, this is just some configuration stuff. And then after this, if you're on Windows, you're going to do global core .auto. Oops. Auto. Again, don't type commas, type periods. Auto, and then you do CRLF, and then true. If you are on Mac or Windows, instead of true, it's going to be input. And so this is just like kind of an end of line character thing. It's kind of important, you'll see later on. And so to make sure you did everything correctly, you can just do git config -l, L is for list. And so then it should give you all the settings. The last few are the ones that we did: username, email, the user interface stuff. So at this point, your Git account is configured and you do have a connection between your GitLab account and your local computer, technically. But moving forward, we're going to install some packages. While these packages aren't completely necessary to be running Git, because we can already run it right now, I highly recommend them. They're super useful Python packages, and it'll make you just a better code programmer overall, especially because these programs are used like pretty universally. So yeah. So the first one we're going to install is something called coverage. And coverage is actually really useful, probably the most useful ones out of the ones I'm going to mention, just because it tells you how much of your unit cases from before that kind of like test the code to make sure it's working. It tells you how much percentage of the code that you're writing actually gets tested by the unit case. So this will tell you if your code is like missing any tests really. And so the easiest way to install this is going to do pip install coverage. For me, it's going to say that it's already satisfied because I already have it installed. If you don't have pip for whatever reason, it should come with Python. You can just search it up and install it. It might also ask you to update pip. You can also do that. There's no issue there. But once it's done installing, just to double check that it's installed correctly, you can just type in coverage. You can do this for all the packages that was installed, by the way. Coverage version. And so this will tell you what version of coverage you're running and where to find more documentation in case you were interested about that. And so the next step is going to be to install AutoPep 8 and Pilot. So similar to before, we're just gonna type in pip install. This time it's gonna be AutoPep8. I already have it installed. And then it's also gonna be pylit. I'm not gonna hit enter because last time I got a weird error doing that. And so after this, we're gonna install something called min.gw. This is just another kind of like documentation thing. This one you can't install from here, so we're just gonna have to type it in onto our Google search bar, and it should, here. You want to just click the sourceforge.net link. It's just the easiest way to download it. You should be able to download it, easily configure it, but then once again, you're gonna wanna go and find it where you installed it and add it to your path variable. So for me, I think I installed it in my C drive, and then where did I have it written down where I installed it? Oh, it's actually right here. And you just want to add this bin folder onto the path variable. So you go into control panel, system, advanced settings, and then eventually you're going to get to path and create a new one and then add this onto it, similar to before. And so then after this, one last package that we should install is PyDoc. So PyDoc is actually PyDoc relation. We just search up PyDoc install. It should come up. The easiest way to do it is going to be to copy this command right here, git clone. You type it in. For me, I can use Control V. You just do this, hit enter, and then it should install PyDoc. And you can double check it installed it by just going onto your file browser and then navigating to where it was installed. And just to clean this up a little, type clear. And so yeah, now you have PyDoc installed. So this is typically all the software all the packages you really need. I do recommend getting a text editor. I use Notepad++. It's pretty simple, pretty easy. I kind of like it. I also do use PyCharm a lot because PyCharm has both Git Bash and Notepad++ combined into it, so it's kind of convenient. But I'd recommend installing Notepad++. It's pretty easy to use. And so, yeah, now we're pretty much done setting up everything you need to run GitLab. Now we're going to do a little tutorial on how to use GitLab. And so now that we have everything installed, we're going to do a few just quick examples so you can kind of get familiar with GitLab and like what it's capable of, as well as get introduced to some of the new aspects that come with running GitLab. So typically a new aspect, if you've never used it before, is the command prompt here, or Git Bash actually is what it's called. It can kind of daunting to use. If you search up like Git Bash cheat sheet, it has all the useful commands on there, but I'll just be covering a few. So there's a way to configure typically where it opens to. I haven't gotten around to that yet, probably never will. So for me, my working folder where I do all my GitLab work is under CD, stands for change directory. So there we go. And then I have a folder called classwork. And so this is typically where I will do all my programming and coding work for all my classes. And so CD is used to change like directories, just like as if you were navigating through the file thing. If you do CD ... it'll go back one. And then if you want to see all the contents of the directory, you can type ls and it'll show you right here all the folders in that directory. So I also have a different folder for GitLab for cloning stuff. So we will go there, GitLab, and then ls, you can see all my folders that I have. And then So let's clear this just to make it clean. So a really useful command is called the make directory, just mkdir, and then you can call it whatever. We'll call this test. So this creates a folder in the directory you're currently in, but it doesn't move you into it. So if I type in ls, you can see that the test folder was created. And so I can jump into it by typing cd test, not ls, and I can jump out of it, cd ... And so I really don't want to have that useless test folder, so I'm going to do rm, which stands for remove r, and then test. Everything is case sensitive, by the way, so please be wary of that. And so now if I type in ls, test is no longer here. And so this is where Notepad++ comes into play. So let's actually recreate test and then jump into it. So on Notepad++, let's just create some kind of file, a Python file, def. We'll just call this test1, and then no inputs, and we'll do print patients, hello world, everyone's favorite program. Then we have to be sure that we're saving it in correctly. So I'm in classwork and I need to go to GitLab test. We'll call this hello.py. You have to do the .py because it doesn't automatically save as a Python file. And so now if we type in ls, we'll see our hello.py there. And so if we want to run that function, we just type in python hello.py. And it technically does run it, but it doesn't output. So to output it, you want to do the the greater than sign, and this will create a file for you to see your output. So if we do output.text, this will now if we do ls, you'll see that it created the output.txt file. Now you're probably wondering how you read the file. So to show the contents of the file, you do cat output.text, and it didn't show anything. So I figured out what I was doing wrong. I was just being silly. I shouldn't have called this a function. I should have just typed in print hello world. It's a little different to call functions, and it's a little bit more advanced because you need to import the function from the Python file. So if we do it this time, python hello.world.output.txt, and then we cat output.txt. This time it displays hello world. So Python calls the Python file hello.world to run, and then outputs that file to output.text. And every time you do the greater than sign, it does reload this file. So see, it's asking me if I opened it up Notepad++, it says that it's been modified. Do you want to reload it? I type in yes, and if I were to do this again, and then come here, even though it's the same thing, it is reloading the file every time. And so if you don't want to reload the file, let's say you want to append, you just do double greater than signs. And so this time, it'll just add it. So if I can do this, if I do this multiple times and then reload, it'll just be hello world very excitedly multiple times. And so, yeah, this is, somewhat exciting, but let's do this a little bit more exciting. So there is something called a makefile that you can use when running GitLab based on from the packages we installed. Specifically, this is min.gw and git. This is something very unique to it. And a makefile is something that allows you to run multiple files at once. And so it is pretty useful to do multiple things at once. So instead of typing in all the commands that I've just typed in on here, what we can do is, let's call this hello, and then semicolon, and then we'll add hello.py. So this first hello is like the command that we will type on here when we run the Makefile, and hello.py is a dependency. And a dependency just says like anytime that this is updated, just to make sure to update it here before running. So after this, if we do Python hello.py dash output.txt, and then we do cat output.txt, it'll do all these commands at once for us. The important thing though is when you save this is to save it as makefile and then all types. So then we hit save, we come to here and we can type make hello, and it gave us an error. Let's see what happened here. So it did that. No such file. Oh, I have a comma. Of course, it's a comma. So we resave, then we do make hello, and it does all the commands for us at once. So this is a pretty useful thing. Some of the make files can get pretty huge, but it's pretty useful in general. So if I come to one of my other assignments to show you how, this is the make file for one of my homework assignments. You can see that it has a lot of commands and stuff. So every time you can have multiple commands on your make file. So just to show this, we'll add a command called versions. Versions. And so this command won't have any dependencies, which is fine. But so what we want this to do is to display all the versions of the software we're running. So we do Python version, coverage version, because normally I would have to type these in one by one. So just to check if everything's running, we can just do it like this. What else do we install? Pilot version. I think you can even do git dash version. And so I save, and then I run make. Notice how when I call the make file, I'm not just hitting, if I just type in make, it'll run everything in the make file, but if I run make slash like the title that I want to run, it'll just run that. So git, I think had the error, oh, coverage was misspelled, I think. Yeah, it was. So let's fix that, coverage. So you can see like the errors can be sometimes be kind of hard to see. Just a matter of like, yeah, so this time it did it right. I type in make versions, it types in all the commands for me automatically. So that's a pretty useful tool to have, the make file. You will use it a lot when you're doing GitLab kind of stuff. So yeah, moving on to the next kind of example topic is actually like working between the cloud and your local computer. So I'm gonna CD out of here, and then I'm gonna remove test because I don't think we need it anymore. Test. And so if I click on here, it'll just say these don't exist anymore. Do I want to keep them? I'm just gonna say no because I don't want them. And so let's create a new project on GitLab and then move it onto our local computer. So we'll call this TWH 2020. Everything is, you want to do private, unless you want to be sharing with the people, then obviously do public, but private is typically the best way to go. And you do want to initialize with a README. This is just to describe your project. I typically don't mess with it, but you can include it anyway. So then you do create project, and it'll automatically create the project for you. and successfully created. Now to get it onto your local computer, you're going to want to hit the clone button, and you can connect your SSH key to make this a pretty automated process. I don't, because it's just simpler to do this. You copy the HTTPS thing, you type git clone, and then paste in your thing. And one important note is you don't have to make a new folder, because this will automatically create a new folder for you. So then I hit enter, and it's going to clone TWH 2020 onto my computer after some time. And so you only need to do this once. If you want to update, like in case someone else adds something from here, to update it, you can just do git pull. And at any time, if you want to check the status of your local machine, you can just do git status. So yeah, another thing is that it didn't automatically take me into it, even though it created it. So I need to go into TWH 2020. So now if I do git status, it'll tell me that my master branch on my computer is up to date with the origin branch on here. And so now, however, if let's say, let's add a file onto here. Go to files. Actually, I don't know if I can add a file from here. Oh, let's make a change to this README file. Actually, wait, no, we shouldn't do that. There should be a way to add a file on here. Okay, that's fine. We don't have to add a file onto here. So now we're gonna go into a little bit about like our computer's local branch versus GitLab's computer branch. So if we, let's see what we're gonna do. Let's close this. Let's create a new function called def average. And then this function is going to take new numbers, and it's just going to get the average of 3 numbers. So we'll just do return just for simplicity. Actually, do a equals 1, 2, 3, and then we'll return sum of a divided by length of a. And so then if we go save this as, so important again, you have to save onto the correct folder. Let's call this average.py. And so we saved it. So now if we come here, ls, just to make sure it's there, let's cat avg.py. So we can see what we're doing here. And then, so now that we have this function, if we do git status, we can see that we have one untracked file. So right now it's saying that this file it's on our repository on our computer, but it hasn't been saved anywhere. So if we want to save it, we can just do git add period. Technically you can do git add average.py, but git period will add all unsaved files. So once again, I'm typing git status, and now it's saying that we do have a tracked file and it's ready to be committed. So as I was saying before, committed is only like if you're really sure you want this. And let's just add a comment. First comment and save. If we do git status again, it'll say this was modified. So we do have to go back and add it again. And so at this point, we're fairly certain that we like our function. So we'll do a git commit. We're going to do -m to add a comment. And this is, you typically want to like add like what you did or what you changed in the file. So in this case, I'll say created g.py. And then if I hit enter, it'll say that we committed it. And so then if we do git status, it'll tell us that our local branch is ahead by 1 commit. And so what it means by this is that our branch here, our branch on the cloud is behind versus like what we have on our local computer. So to make our branches like equal, I guess, you're gonna type in git push. And so this will push all of our commits on our local drive onto our cloud drive. So if I do git push, it does take some time. It does all this and we should be good. We hit enter here and then we can see that our average.py file is on here now. And so on here, let's edit it just to show what the push does. So let's say we delete our comment and we add a print A. And then whenever you do stuff on here, you have to automatically commit. So you have to be sure what you're doing. So this is why people don't typically use it on here. So now if we do git status, it's gonna say that we're up to date, but it doesn't really know anything. So in this case, let's try to give it an error by, let's delete this file, or not delete this, but we'll delete this comment and add b equals, I don't know, let's say 456, and then we save. So now when we try to do the git add, it'll work. And then if we do the git commit, and then we'll change this to say added b variable. So, and the nice thing it does, it tells you like what you actually did. Sometimes that's useful, sometimes it isn't. But now, so this is the issue of not pooling, because we updated the average.py file in here, but we don't know so far that we updated it on here. So this is like the continuous integration issue with working with other people. And so typically you would do a git pull to update it. But let's say you're being a little bit lazy and you forget and you just do a git push. Hopefully it gives me, yeah. So it says it failed to push because this was updated. So it's telling me to do a git pull again before pushing. So if I do git pull, it'll automatically update the files for me and it'll tell me of the conflicts I have. So if I go here, it gives you these weird marks, but it kind of tells you like what was added and what wasn't. And like, this is just like the location in the file and stuff like that. So it's telling me that I added this B thing here because it's in like these brackets almost. So I know this is not an issue. It's not going to cause any code failure. So I'm just going to delete all these weird symbols, hit Control S and save it. Now, if I do git status, it'll say that it was modified. So then I need to go through the whole process again of doing the git add, git commit, and then we'll do git push. And so this time I'm not going to get an error because I already did the git pull. So this is just one example of like how the continuous integration works. So let's say someone else is working on the code, I have to be sure to pull it onto my directory just to make sure that our code doesn't conflict. I guess just one last thing is just showing PyCharm and how you can use PyCharm as well. But once again, if you had any issues at all, just please let us know and we'll help you sort it out. Thank you everyone for coming to this video. Okay, now that PyCharm is finally loaded, I can show you guys how it looks. So PyCharm is actually super powerful. It can be kind of overwhelming to use. I do use it a lot. It has like a very nice user interface, and it does have everything you need. Let me close some of this stuff, close these files that I have open. So it can be daunting to use. It does have like a lot of nuances and a lot of like specific stuff. Like you do have to set up a lot of your settings, like the Python interpreter and stuff like that, like over here. But if you do decide to go this route, you can create folders to do all your work in. I have like my class folders, my research folder, and some other stuff as well. And you can create new files. You can do a lot of different types of files. You can do Java, HTML, and even Jupyter. And then the nice thing about PyCharm, it does have not the R console. You can do R too, apparently. It does have the Python console, so if you want to test, like if you don't know the syntax of something, you can test it out on here. PyCharm does have the natural like autocomplete feature. Like I type a bracket, it types the other one for me. So it is pretty useful. And then it also does have the same git bash, not git bash terminal, but it does have this terminal, so I can do git commands from here. It doesn't look as nice in my opinion. You can probably change the settings somehow, but see, you can do git status. It tells me I'm up to date. So you can use this all in one screen, open file and then upload it to GitLab. So you can do all of it from PyCharm as well. So if you'd like to do that, I would recommend it. PyCharm is pretty cool. But yeah. I hope everyone found this really useful. If you had any issues during this, during the tutorial, please just let me know. Email me at theaustin.twh@gmail.com and we can help you get sorted out.